Science Beetle.
All right, welcome back. So in the last video, we were looking at how we can modify lists, either going upper, lowercase, or title, capitalizing the first letter of the string or that particular string that we're using at a very specific position. But that's great. We can modify that. But what if we wanted to add or remove items from our list? What do you do then? Well, one thing that you can do, let's go to erase some of this code here. Let's go ahead and begin with the list that we had before, the my list. And let's say that I wanted to add something to this particular list. We can use a command known as the append command. And so what we would do here is that we would actually have to write down the name of the list that we're looking at. So here, my list. And then we would use the dot function here. So we would put dot, and then the function that we're looking for is append. And so we would put append, open and close parentheses, and inside the value that we add here is going to be added to the very end. If you don't designate a very specific position, it will be added at the end. So we can add anything. We can add a string, we can add a float, we can add an integer, whether that be a short or a long integer, but we can add that. So for example, let's go ahead and add the number 42. Okay, so we'll press 42. We've designated, so when we run it, let's go ahead and make a copy of this for right now, and let's put that online there. Let's just go ahead and, just for the sake of argument here, let's go ahead and print the list. And there's an underscore list. And before we do anything, let's comment out, clear out the results so we can see here's our list on the right hand side. Let's go ahead and uncomment the command in line number 8. And now when I run the script again here, it'll add the 42 to the list. But notice here, why is it not displayed to the console on the right hand side? And that's because when I made the amendment here, the 42, it was added after the printing on line number 7. So if I want to see the updated list, I would have to copy and paste the code here in line 7. Put that over here on line number 9. And now when we run it again, you're going to see now the first list, this code in line number 7 is referring to the list that we have in line number 5 before anything has been added. And so you can see that the list here in its original form is in line number 5. So over here in the console, that's what we see here at the very top. But when we put in the code for mylist.append, we're telling the compiler and the interpreter here, go ahead and add the value 42 to the end of the list. And so when it runs the code in line number 8, it doesn't display anything until you tell the interpreter to display the results of that modified list. And that's what line number 9 does. It actually displays the complete value set of my list, and it displays all the values in that list once that modification has occurred in line number 8. And that's why we see 42 identified over here at the end. There is another way that we can amend a list, and that is that we can actually remove items. Let's say that I added the 42, but what if I wanted to get rid of the 42 that I just added? Well, one thing that I can do is I can come in here and I can do a couple of things. I can come in here and redeclare that value list. I could say my underscore list. I can say, since the 42 is at the very end, I don't know, maybe perhaps the length of my string, but I could put in here a -1 because I know it was the last item that I entered into the list. I could put in a -1. I can remove that value. I can recast it or reassign it and say, instead of 42, maybe I meant to say 24. And so if I go ahead and run that code, and then after this, go ahead and put a print command here, print my underscore list, and run it, notice the 42 is going to change to a 24. And since I've kept the previous lines of code up above, beginning at line 7 through 11, all of those printouts are shown there. So that's one way that you can amend. You can just do a recasting or a reassignment of a very specific value in a list. What if you wanted to remove a value from a list entirely? Well, you want to use a different kind of operator here, or a different kind of function. And so let's go ahead and do on line number 14 here. Let's go ahead and put my list, And what we're going to do at this point is we are going to go ahead and remove it, and we can go ahead and do dot. We're going to do pop. We're going to do open and close parentheses, and inside the parentheses, we're going to go ahead and remove whatever value is at the position that I'm about to put inside the parentheses. Let's say that I made a mistake. I didn't want the 24 in there, so let's get rid of it. So how do you determine it? Well, the 24 is in the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4th position in the list. So I would have to come in here into the parentheses on line 14 and type in 4, and that should remove it. I'm going to go ahead and put in a print command right there on line 15 just so we can see the results immediately, and I'm going to put the name of the list, close it, and then run the script, and we'll see that 24 should be removed. And notice here, the last printout here, 24 is not identified. Let's say that I wanted to remove another one, so I can actually put here instead of 4, let's copy these codes again and put them down here on line 17, and instead of 4, let's say that I wanted to remove car. Car is in the 1st position, and so we'll put the 1 there and then run the code again, and so car should be removed, and notice we're now left with 1, cat, and Regina in capital letters. So those are some ways that you can actually do some amendments here. There is one other way that you can actually put stuff into a list, and I didn't mention that earlier, but I'll mention it now. What if I wanted to put these things back, and I decide, hey, you know, I want to put some values back in here. Can I add items to it? Yeah, you sure can. So let's go ahead and remove some of these items here, give ourselves a little bit of space, and let's go ahead and put my list again, start off with the list name. And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to use the insert function. So we're going to put dot insert and open close parentheses. Now the dot insert function is going to have two things. It's going to have, I'll just use underscores for right now. It's going to have a value. It's going to be separated by a comma. And then it's going to have some string or whatever the value is if it's numerical. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and show you that. So let's go say that I want to put right back into the 1 position. Instead of cat, I want to put car back in. So I'll put 1, I'll put the comma, space, and then I'm going to put the string here, and I'm going to put the word car because I want that back in there. And let's just go and put the print command at the very bottom here, and we'll put my underscore list, and we should have car show up once again. Now the couple of items are going to be erased, but that's okay. We'll go through it. And so here, notice car went back into the list. Now we didn't get rid of the 24 because I had erased the code, but if I want to get rid of the last item here, we can go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and run that code here right before in line 15. So let's say my underscore list, and then we're going to say here dot pop, and 24 is in the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 position, and so let's go say 5, and then, or we can say it's the last item, we can say -1. Both of these methods will work. Let's go ahead and press run, and we'll get rid of the 24. Now we look at the list and we say, hey, wait a second, we've got 2 cars here. We got a car in position 1 and we've got a car in position 2. We don't need both of those, so let's go ahead and remove one of them. So since we know that we want to remove the car at, say, position 1 or position 2, it doesn't matter. You just want to go in here to the pop. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and remove this number here. We've already removed that item here. In line 15, we've removed it. And so what we'll do here is let's go ahead and take this out of that position and move it a little bit lower after the position. And then we'll say, okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take the value at position 1. So we'll take the negative sign off. And then let's go ahead and copy the code and put it on the next line on line 18. Run the code again, and we should get rid of one of the cars. And so notice here the letters there. Now, did you notice what happened there? Notice the 24 came back largely because I did not remove that -1. I had taken it from line 15 over here and I put it on line 17. So let's go ahead and copy, put it back on 15, put a -1, and then we should be able to run it, and now 24 is removed. So in a way, that last little thing that happened there is a very useful thing, because what you want to make sure you remember is that the code is going to run from line 1 all the way down. And if you edit your code and you remove something, a certain function that was carried out earlier in the code is no longer going to be there, in which case you're going to have a difference in the output that's going to be shared to the console. So you got to be very careful with what you do with deleting any lines of code, because like I've shown you here, it is going to impact the code that is displayed to the console. So with that, that was our discussion here of how we modify some of the items in a list. And so what you want to do is keep practicing. So if you need to go back to the beginning of this video, watch it again, go ahead and do so. We're going to continue our discussion of Python, and hopefully we'll see you in that video. See you then.